Okay, welcome back. This is part 5 of a series of videos on how to create a multi-user chat. In the last part, which is part 4, we spent the time to develop this chat client, which is our API to the server, right? So this is on the client side. There's a client-side API, which you can create an instance of that and then connect it to a certain host with the port. And then from there, you're able to add user status listeners, which will tell you the presence of a user when they go online or offline. You're also able to add message listeners, which is a callback when another user sends a message to this user. And then there's also connect. This is how you start the client connect to the server. And then after that, once you connect, then you can log in. And then after you log in, then you can start sending messages. And then finally, you get to log off. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how to create a graphical user interface for showing a list of users that are currently online. So to start off, I'm going to create a Java class. I'll call this the user list pane. And I'm using Java Swing to create the GUI. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this class. So I'm creating my main method, and in there I'm going to just do the same thing that we do for this chat client. Okay, so when I create this chat client, I'm going to pass it to this instance of this list pane. And then from there, I can display this pane in a window. Right now, we just create a JFrame, which is going to be our window. Okay, so what I've done here is I just created a window, and then I added that user list pane as the main component of this frame. Finally, I set the dimensions to 400 by 600 pixels, and then finally I just make it visible, right? So let's work on the constructor. All right, so the constructor is going to, it's going to add itself as a presence listener, right? So this is going to add itself as one of these listeners. So that means this interface has to be implemented by this class. All right. So here, this implements this user status listener. Right, so that means we have to implement this online and offline methods, callbacks. What we're going to do is we're going to have several components in this JPanel, and one of these components is going to be a JList, and this JList is going to show the list of users. I'm going to set the layout of the current pane to have a border layout, and then I'm going to add this to be this main component of this border layout. That means I don't really need this scroll pane here, because inside this user list is also going to be a scroll pane. Okay, so just to show you how it works, let's run it. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Here we just have an empty list. Okay, so what we want to do is when the user logs in, so this user list needs to have a list model. And this list model, we have several implementations of this list model. And one of this implementation is called the default list model. And that's one we're going to use because it's backed by a vector. And we just want a list of that. So here, we're going to create we want this to be a string. So our user list model. And then we can pass in a model. So this would be our user list model as part of the constructor to the JList. And then now, when the user comes online, we just add that to the model. And likewise, we can remove it from the model once that login is offline. Okay, so here. Okay, so here again online, we're going to add it to this model. Offline, we're going to remove it from the model. So let's see how that works. But first, in order for us to have this callback work, we have to log into this client. So once we make the frame visible, we can then log in. Okay, so here, so this chat client in our login, we have to make it public. Well, first we have to connect, and then we have to be logged in. So here, all these basically APIs has to be public. Okay, so public. Okay, and this also public. Okay. Okay, so here first we have to connect. If we can connect, then we can log in. Alright, so guess it's using the login and password. Alright, so let's see if that works. Okay, so now that we are logged in, so you can see that right now there's a gym user online, which is true. So here you have gym, but let's start with the empty list. So let's say I want to, right, so there you go. Okay, so now when I telnet and then I log in as gym, you should see the list have one user called gym, right? And then when I log off, it will remove that user from the list. Okay, so that's how we can create our user list. Okay, so what we have so far now is that we have this GUI that can show you the list of users that are currently online. Right? So now when we telnet, using the telnet to replicate another user, right? When we log in as a user, this will appear here. And the next thing we want to do is when I double click on this, I want to be able to send a message to this user. So let's go create that user interface for us to send messages to this particular user.